So I wasn't too upset with the characters they chose for the Fate Samurai Remnant collaboration event that we're going to be getting over here on the JP version of the game in a couple of days, but there are a lot of people online that I'm seeing are not very happy at all whatsoever with the choices that we got, especially because we have no Tamamo Arya, which is a very, very popular servant from Samurai Remnant, and also the odd choice of Yui, who I don't really mind personally. I didn't really think that they would be able to get a servant in Samurai Remnant, but technically they are a historical figure, as most of the masters in Samurai Remnant are historical figures, so of course we would be able to summon them. I just didn't really think the masters were going to be an option because the servants seem so obvious. So I wanted to kind of go over the other collaboration events because we've had a lot of them, and I've played every single one of them as they came out, and experience how they got better or worse over the years. And I wanted to give some of you guys a little bit of copium, or maybe crush a couple of dreams about there being a potential second banner. But even if we don't get the second banner, I have good news. So I'm going to go over all the major collabs we've gotten, go over how many new servants we got, if we got a free-to-play or we didn't, but generally for all of these we did get a free-to-play. I believe actually for every single one we do have a free-to-play for all the major collaborations. And in the background, I have some just B-roll footage of me farming the event. If you see me doing something goofy in the background, I don't know, I was just messing around. I wanted to use Saber Alter, and I wanted to use Masashi because I thought I was going to fight a Lancer at some point. Turns out, Altera turns into an Archer, and I just misread the details. So that was very fun. As always, before we begin, if you haven't already, just like, subscribe, all that good stuff, yada yada, blah blah. Do the YouTube things, but let's start off with Kara no Kyokai. This was the first major collab event that we had on FGO, and it was kind of a big deal because it has nothing to do with Fate, right? I mean, technically they're in the same sphere, right? They're in the same series, but they're pretty separate as far as all things go, you know, lore and all that good stuff. And we got not only a free-to-play Shiki from the actual Kara no Kyokai anime, but then we also got the God Shiki from, like, the end of Kara no Kyokai. And then when this event got a rerun, they gave us Fujino on that rerun, so they did bring the event back so that everybody else could have a chance to go get the God Shiki and the free-to-play Shiki, but they also introduced this idea that when they rerun these collaboration events, they might actually bring a new servant out. Maybe not a new 5-star, but they did bring out Fujino as a 4-star archer on the banner, so that's, you know, the first collab, and they brought back a new servant when they rerun the event, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit here. But also there's the idea that they only brought out Fujino because there are a few other characters I guess they could bring from Kara no Kyokai, but maybe they just didn't feel like some of them were popular enough, or they didn't think they would quite fit very well into the whole servant system, because, you know, you gotta have lore and stuff kind of make sense. So again, that's kind of understandable if they were like, okay, we'll do Fujino, she's semi-popular, you know, people like her, she's cute, and we can kind of fit her into the Fate system. But then we had the Fate Zero collaboration event, which again, actually didn't bring very many new stuff to the game. You know, they did the waiver banner rerun, they put Lancelot up on raid up, and then I believe this is when we got 100 Personas as an actual 3-star on the banner. They gave us the Iris Wheel free to play, and I believe this is when Assassin Emiya came out, or, you know, Kari, Kiritsugu, whatever you want to call them. But again, you'll see another theme on the rerun, even though we didn't get like a new 5-star for this, even though the waiver raid up was huge at the time. When they did the rerun, they did Saber Diermud. That's when they brought him out, even though he should have come out during America. If you've ever seen the trailer for that, that's clearly Saber Diermud, and I refuse to be told otherwise, so he should have come out for that. But when they did the rerun, they brought out Saber Diermud. So they, again, show this idea of when they do a rerun for something, they will kind of bring out another servant from that, you know, event or story or whatever they're collabing with. Although, again, Fate Zero, they kind of had to make something up for it, because Fate Zero, we already have all of the guys from that outside of the Masters, but, you know, I don't know if they were already planning to do Kirei as Rasputin that far back, so who knows if they just didn't want to bring him out for that, and they were like, oh, we could do a Saber Diermud because we were supposed to do that for America. But again, you see this idea of, okay, we kind of just do a little bit on the initial banner, and then we start bringing out big stuff on the rerun. Although, I guess for Prisma Ilia, which is the next one, I believe, like this is, I'm trying to go in order of when they chronologically released over on JP, so the reruns might not be in chronological order, so just keep that in mind. I just wanted to say that before someone's like, well, actually, technically, this didn't, you know, I'm going in chronological order and then talking about the reruns. But for Prisma Ilia, we got Ilia coming out, and then we had Chloe come out as the free-to-play, but then you'll get, again, you notice when they do the rerun, all of a sudden they decide to drop Miyu as an additional unit on the banner, right? That's when they bring out Miyu for the rerun, which, by the way, is the whole reason that I was really upset with the rerun for the Apocrypha event. I was so far in on the copium that we were going to get a Saber Jean as the rerun unit for that, you know, where she could use a La Pucelle free just willy-nilly, or maybe she was just going to be in a Rosh style unit, even as a 4-star. I was super gassed for that. Did not get that. I'm not going to say that I'm still not salty about that, but I'm still really salty about that one. But going even further, even with Seraph, you see this same idea with the Seraph event, and that's a main story chapter. And this one was kind of the big kahuna because we got 2 headlining 5-stars. We had Melt Lilith come out, we had Kiara come out, we had Passion Lip come out, we had Suzuka come out, and then when the event reran, we got King Protea. I mean, not to also mention we got BB as a free-to-play unit. So again, you see this style and fashion of them just kind of doing a rerun and then bringing out another really hype unit alongside the rerun. Like, this is just something that they kind of do. But this is then kind of broken by the Apocrypha event, because like I was complaining about earlier, they did not give us a singular new unit when this came out. I remember being in a Discord call with the boys getting super gassed about this because there were so many different units they could have done for this, so many hypothetical different class people they could do, and I even cited the Diermu Saber thing as an example where it's like, well, if we already have all the units, we could just get an alternate version of one of the servants we have, say a Lancer Vlad that does the actual full Dracula thing that he did in Apocrypha, goes full mode. You know, we could get that, we could get a Saber Jean. There was just a lot we could have gotten. A Berserker Mordred even would have been really sick. But instead of that, they gave us a huge banner that had all of the Apocrypha related servants on it, which was kind of neat, but there was nothing new with it. Thankfully, the event was really gas and hype anyway, so we didn't really need a new unit. But that's the only one that I've at least found that kind of breaks this mold. I think it is just the Apocrypha event, because as we're experiencing right now with Case Files, originally it drops Estrella and Reigns, and then when it reruns, it brings out Hephaestion as a new unit. And then we arrive at the most recent collab events. We have the Fate Requiem event where they only put out Voyager and the Dinosaur Lady and then Eris as the free-to-play. And then we have Lilim Harlot where they put out Tiamat, Draco, and then they gave us Satanta as a free-to-play and Locusta, the goofy mushroom lady, as the 4-star unit. Now, if either one of those gets a rerun, I would suspect that they would get an additional servant added to their, you know, summoning banner, even if it is a 4-star. For Requiem, I think it's a little bit less obvious if they would get a new servant, because it's obviously like, oh, Galahad Altar is really cool, and I'm a huge fan of Longinus from Fate Requiem, but that series is still kind of ongoing, and I don't know how much they can really interfere with what they're doing in the novelization for Requiem. Like, I don't know if the author maybe doesn't want them to use some of the characters, because that was a thing for Strange Fake. That's why I would suspect we still have not gotten a Strange Fake event, even though the manga is pretty far in. The light novel is real deep, and there is a bunch of nonsense going on in the light novel right now. It is bonkers. But Narita has like specifically requested that he does not want them using servants in Strange Fake. He wants to use them first, which is why he was pretty upset about Edison, because he wanted to use a Berserker Edison and he wanted to use Tesla, but then they used them for London and America. He really wanted to use Enkidu, but then Nasu kind of cheekily was like, well, I'm not using Enkidu, I'm doing Kingu, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about that little bit of drama where he was like, dude, I wanted to do Enkidu myself. He's like, no, I'm not using Enkidu, I'm using Kingu. Completely different guy, I swear. And then obviously for the arcade event, you know, there's a lot of people that were like, oh, I really wanted the Santa Suzuka, I wanted the Frankenstein, I wanted the Da Vinci, I wanted the Mistake Kama, you know, I wanted all these extra servants that we have not gotten, you know, I wanted Sita, and I would just suspect that if they ever do a rerun on the event, we would get somebody like that. We would get some of those other servants that we didn't get the first time, because usually on the second lap around, to kind of make the rerun a little bit more hype, they generally throw in an extra servant there. So that's the least amount of copium I can give to people, is that look at all the other collab events we have, and when they do usually rerun them, and I would suspect Samurai Remnant would get a rerun because it does have quite a bit of DLC coming out, so even by next year, if they throw out another piece of DLC, they could be like, hey, Samurai Remnant got some DLC, so we're going to throw in the rerun right here, and I don't know, now you could play as boss. Well, I'm assuming boss would actually just be a skin, but you know, we'll throw in Arya if we didn't get him in the first lap. Because right now it's kind of looking like how Arcade structured their collaboration event, where Arcade put out Tiamat a couple of weeks before the event dropped, just like how right now they use New Year's as an excuse to kind of throw Takadu out a couple of weeks before the event drops, and then now we know that with both of them, they both have exactly one free-to-play. We have Iori and we have Satanta. We have a headlining 5-star for the actual event, that being Avenger Raiko, that kind of goes alongside the Beast Draco. And then they both have a 4-star. We have Yui, and then we have Locusta. So realistically, that could be all we get for this first lap. But it's also not uncommon for some of these events to get a second banner. I mean, Seraph had a second banner. Look, they had Kiara and all this craziness going on over there. And so I don't think it's, kind of dumb to assume that we might get a second banner, especially unlike a lot of these other collabs, with Fate Zero or Prisma Ilia, where there might be a couple of extra characters they could throw away. Like, they could throw an Angelica away. They could throw, I'm going to say Thor because I don't want to spoil their actual identity if you're reading Prisma Ilia, but, they throw Thor out there, I suppose, or they want to do Miyu versus Shiro. They have a couple of guys, but maybe they just don't want to make a whole separate banner. They want to hold them off or something. I don't think it's dumb to assume that we might get a second banner, because Samurai Remnant has way more than that. I mean, a lot of these servants are brand spanking new. I mean, you got Tamamo Arya, you got Assassin, you got Caster, you got Samson, you got Tomoe's husband. I mean, you got a whole boatload of people you could be bringing in. You could even make new versions of these servants. Like, you could just make a ruler Gilgamesh as well. Instead of doing a costume, you could just throw him a whole new unit if you really, really wanted to. You could make the book. You could make him like a 1-star servant on the Friend Point gacha or something. You could do so much with all the characters that there is definitely enough for not only a second banner, but if they want to rerun it, they could do 2 more banners. It's just a matter of, do they have all these servants ready to go? Did they prepare them? Because remember, these servants take quite a while for them to do. It's somewhere in the range of like 6 to 8 months for, kind of writing the lore and animating them and getting them to work all properly, making all their skills. And so maybe they haven't made all of the units yet, maybe they're just not all there. And a little bit of copium that even if we do not get a second banner, or we don't get a rerun for like 2 or 3 years and we don't see these guys, you could still see Tamamo Arya in some Tamamo-related event. Because remember, she is a Tamamo. So if they wanted to do some Tamamo no Mai focused event, which I don't think is that far-fetched, especially for like Valentine's Day or something along those lines, some cutesy event, you could definitely do it Tamamo focused and throw Arya in there. Because if anything, if we don't get Arya right now, I would just see that as they're trying to figure out a way to make it make sense that Arya doesn't attack in Samurai Remnant, and how they want to port that over to FGO. Do her attacks just maybe have no attack at all behind them? Like, does she have a 0 attack stat, but she just debuffs the enemies on her attacks or something along those lines? Like, who knows what she actually does? Or maybe her attacks are actually just self-buffs for the party. Something weird along those lines. Maybe they're having trouble figuring that out. Or maybe they want to figure out what they want to do with all the other servants. Or maybe they want to put Tomoe's husband in an event focused around him. Or maybe they want to, I'm trying not to spoil some of the identities, but maybe they want to do some Bible theme event and throw Berserker over there, right, and chuck him over in that event, or something to do with Herc and Spartacus and they want to chuck him in there, right? Maybe they're saving them for other events, because a lot of these guys are very flexible. You can use them in a lot of different events. I mean, if you just have, say, like a South South themed event, you could throw Archer into that event, because that guy pretty much told us that Cao Cao looks like Gilgamesh, so we pretty much know how Cao Cao is going to look and act. We're just waiting for him to come out, and if they drop Cao Cao, they could just put him on the banner right next to him. So do keep in mind that even if we don't get them in this current event, we could easily see them ported to other events. It's not like they have to come out with Samurai Remnant, unless there is some legal document that I don't know about where the company that made Samurai Remnant is like, nope, you're not allowed to use these characters in events for X amount of time, and you can only use these servants. But that sounds really dumb because they're both Fate games. I don't know why you would shoot yourself in the foot like that and not allow your games to work together. But suffice to say, I've rambled far too long, so just let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Does this kind of help you out and just kind of cope and, understand what they're probably going to do by looking at some of the past ways they've handled events and how they usually get a rerun and a new servant comes out? And so maybe you can cope for a rerun, maybe you can still cope for a ban or two, but even if we don't get either one of those in the next couple of weeks, just remember that these servants are very easy to kind of copy and paste into different events. We could just see them appear in random spots, so don't worry about that. But with all that being said, I want to hear your comments in the comments down below. I'm going to go over all of them. I want to see how many people are coping and how many people are like, no, this is the worst event ever, I hate it. But I do also want to say, I think the whole mentality of, oh, we lost or we just did not get, exactly what we wanted and we start throwing a hissy fit. I think that's always kind of a bad mentality to have, because even if it's not your favorite servant coming out, that's somebody's favorite servant. I know not everybody was happy for Takeru on New Year's, but that is some people's favorite character from Samurai Remnant. And you know what? You're not going to have banger banners where you have all of your favorite servants coming out all the time. You gotta let other people have the spotlight sometimes, right? Like sometimes you gotta have a dude bro servant come out, and then sometimes you just gotta have a waifu servant come out. I know Birdo Mart wasn't everybody's favorite, but for some people, they were probably really gassed about Birdo Mart coming out. I know there's a ton of people that probably didn't care about Morgan coming out, but I was ecstatic about Morgan. Sometimes you just gotta be like, hey, this banner's not for me. I'm not gonna summon, and take that as a W. Save your same chords. But I don't know, that's my little PSA about, we all gotta share our toys and not be selfish about what units are coming out. I don't think I should be having to have this conversation, but seeing how many people are like, I hate this event, it didn't bring out the exact one servant that I wanted. It's like, bro, you gotta stop being a baby, dude. Come on, it's literally a video game. Let's calm down. But with all that being said, now for reals, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.